Hola, Animigos, and welcome to Keyframers, the animated collaborative coding live stream where we bring imaginative user interfaces to life. I'm your host, Stephen Shaw.
And I'm your host, David Khourshid.
Together we are coding compadres, animation amigos, Boolean buddies, and keyframe companions.
Yeah, we'll be creating an animation from scratch live using HTML, CSS, and a little bit of React today.
A little bit.
As it so turns out. We're happy to answer any questions you may have, so please reach out in the chat or the comments.
That's right. Yeah, this is going to be a fun one. I've got the animation pulled up here. Task delete from a to-do list kind of deal from Joshua on Dribble here. We've got the link in the description. And you know, it's just kind of a nice, I guess, material design-ish little to-do with a fancy shadow and kind of delete animation. And you know, this is one of those things on the surface, like all the different components of it, it's not that wild. Like it, you know, this is a fairly nice but standard animation. But trying to trigger these animations and control all of this in React, and like how are you managing states and like all these things, there's just so many little factors that go into making this work well, especially in React, that just traditionally does not do a good job of helping you with animation. So we're gonna try some stuff out. We've got, you know, at least a little initial setup happening here. Just to walk through it, we've got our app that's got all of our to-dos state in it. Right now the to-dos are just text. We're not necessarily going to worry about checked or anything like that. We're mainly concerned about just deleting. Which kind of the same thing, but different implications there. And we're just mapping through those and rendering out a to-do element. And in that to-do element, we've just got the actual text rendered here, and then a button for deleting it. And you know, we'll make it fancier with it as we go, but nothing to write home about with the styles or anything else like that. So with something like this, how would you typically approach it, David?
Well, I mean, the typical thing that you would do, or any React dev would do, would just say like, all right, if we have to-dos and they're deleted, then they just don't show up anymore. And that's easy enough to do, but it becomes a lot more difficult when you actually have to, like, let's say the project manager says, hey, I actually want a nice deleting animation, like a fade out or something. Now you're struggling and thinking, okay, which library do I pull in, or how am I going to implement that? React doesn't make this easy. So yeah, to figure out how to do that. So what I would do instead is each to-do should sort of have like a, you know, an indicator of whether they're deleted or not. So not just text. You know, we should probably yeah, show whether they're deleted or not. So I'm just gonna quickly edit this data structure over here, because right now it's just strings. So what if instead we had message, keep started, your blah blah blah, whatever these motivational messages are, and then just I guess we could do status or
state.
So status active. So each of these are active. They could be active or deleted. Yeah.
All right. So
Or
when
actually, yeah, just kidding. I'm going to do deleted false, because whether the status is active or completed or whatever, they could either be deleted or not. So we'll just keep it simple there.
Yeah, let's see. Text is not defined. Oh, to-do.message.
Yes.
Fix that there, and we should be back in rendering. Excellent. Let me go ahead and get that nice red from the original animation, because that default red is bugging me. All right, so when a user clicks on clicks on that delete button, we want to set deleted to true in that list.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And then so that's going to trigger something in the to-do to actually show that animation.
Right. All right. So we can say, we can pass through like an on delete function.
Yeah.
We can say delete to do we'll say new to-dos index dot deleted equals true. And then in our little to-do component, let's just do to-do dot deleted and just see if we can get that working. All right, so we've got an on delete function. When we click that, we're updating our state to just set the deleted flag true for that particular index. Yeah, we need our on delete function there to pass through to the button. And now, okay, great.
Cool. So we're deleting stuff. It's great. But now the real challenge is actually animating these. Just like the original dribble animation, it does this really cool like deletion thing followed by an expletive, which we won't include in there. But you know, if you want to, it's fine.
Yeah, depends on what kind of right. Depends on the to-do app you're writing here. Yeah. Right. So how would you approach that?
How would I approach it? Oh, so what I would do is I would probably have some configuration for the duration of the animation. So I would say like, oh, it's half a second long. So I have that 0.5 somewhere in there, you know, as a CSS variable. And so I would also put as a data attribute on that to do like, oh, you're deleted. So do the deletion animation and do it for this many milliseconds. And so both the CSS and the component are keeping track of how many milliseconds, like using a set timeout or something like that. But there might be a more robust way of doing that because those don't necessarily match up all the time. And then when that's done, we just tell the parents, hey, I'm deleted. So yeah.
Right. So one of the things, like when I was getting started with learning frameworks, as many people call them, even though they debate about libraries or whatever, learning kind of this new component-based front-end rendering. I got started with Vue, and Vue is fantastic, especially coming from just a regular old like HTML kind of mindset, because the single file components, they are all kind of self-contained. The styles are there. It's a lot like the CodePen interface. You've got like your template, you've got your CSS, and you've got your script. And with Vue, like one of the amazing parts of it is the built-in transition component. And what this does is whenever you're adding or removing from the DOM, you can trigger a transition. And there's a lot of different ways you can control that. Like it can be purely CSS based, like just adding classes to trigger an animation, and it watches for like the transition end setup. And you can also control it completely with JavaScript by using the whole API. You've got events you can listen for and different listeners and everything. React, unfortunately, doesn't have anything like that. It does have, you know, plenty of third-party libraries that help with some of that, but one thing I'd like to do is give us like a kind of a mini version of that but with states in mind. Like a lot of times in our animations, if you go back and watch anything where we do state machines, we'll typically have like a data state attribute on an element, and sometimes we'll even have like data next or data next state or something like that when we're triggering transitions so that we can animate between the two. So it'd be really cool to come up with a component that kind of helps handle some of the drudgery of that and make it a lot easier to kind of trigger these state transitions and automatically, kind of animate and enter into the new state. Do you agree with that approach, David?
Let's go for it. I'd like to see it. Yeah.
Okay. So we'll make just kind of a wrapper component here. We just mainly want it state animation, and we can say just a really simple component. One little thing I always like to do is give it a component prop so it can be rendered kind of however we want. We'll want to take the current state in, and then maybe like an onComplete kind of function. We'll just give it a really simple default one, and then we can say return, let's say const component equals component, just to make that render better component. And we'll say data state equals state for now. And we can pass through like any other props so that this can kind of render however. Props. All right, so this is a pretty basic little container component. Let's go ahead and add this. So what we can do here is do state animation. State animation here. And now if we inspect, let's see, we're getting an error expected. Oh, got a semicolon there. All right, so nothing should change once this actually renders here. But if we inspect the DOM, class equals to do, okay, we're not actually passing in a state right now. So we can say state equals active, just to see if that, that does it. Inspect the DOM. Okay, now we have our data state attribute that's being controlled by this simple little component. But with this component, we don't actually want that state attribute like always matching directly. Let's see. In the past, we've done PreState. Do you lean towards doing PreState or like next state for transitioning between states, like thinking about it in those terms?
That's a good question. Let's do PreState.
Okay. All right. So what we'll do, so let's go const PreState, set PreState, and then we'll go equals use state null for now. That doesn't need to be anything. And we'll add that as an attribute, data PreState equals PreState. And that shouldn't really add anything to it for now. Let's see, did I break something or did you?
I didn't. At least I hope not.
It's giving us an error, but nothing. Okay, we should be fine here. All right, and what we can do is, let's see.
Oh, it was me. Sorry.
That's all right. Do a use effect, and we can watch our state to trigger that. If state is not equal to PreState, then let's kind of trigger some transitions here. Let's see. So we'll go set PreState to state. Right? Is that going to be the right logic? So use effect. We're going to manage const state, set state here equals use state active.
All right, so basically when it's deleted, we're going to set the states to delete it. And all right, that makes sense. And so that state is going to trigger that to do something. Oh, it's going to trigger it to listen for the animations.
Right.
That makes sense.
Right.
I'm getting it.
Right. So yeah, for now we're not really doing anything with that. Let's see. Oh, set state to do. Let's go if to do dot deleted. Then we'll set the state to deleted. And let's go ahead and add. Let's go writer. So to do data state equals deleted. We'll go ahead and add just a border. Just make it a red border so that we can see that delete has been triggered. That's great. Delete. Awesome. Okay. So.
Oops. Darn. Hold on. There we go. Okay, we're good. Sorry, I was trying to pull an Indiana Jones on you. But yeah, I refactored your use state to a use reducer, and that's all.
Okay.
Everything works the same.
That's fine by me. It seems to be triggering correctly, so that's fine. I'm thinking through my logic now because tracking the PreState. Let's see. I think we need to manage the state separately from that state prop. So we'll go state and set state. We'll listen to this as state prop. We'll match this as state prop. So we'll set PreState to state prop, state prop, state prop. Right? Wait. It's not equal to state.
It's data state.
Set
Okay.
to state.
Going for that.
Set state to set state to state prop. Okay, let's inspect and see if that okay, so okay, data state is deleted and data PreState is active. So that's great. That's what we want, right? And so now triggering the actual like animation. We don't necessarily need to keep track of the PreState like after it's done. So like function on complete, like whenever the animation is done. Let's see, we can say animation complete. We want to trigger our on complete, and we want to set PreState to null.
All right, jumping back into JavaScript land here to see what Shaw is working on.
That's good.
All right, so yeah, we're setting up those event listeners. So animation. Sorry,
Bless you.
Forgot to mute.
No, you're good. Okay, so Right. So if the state prop is not matching the state, we want to update these two.
Yes.
And then whenever the animation is complete, we want to fire that on complete. Now we don't have anything to actually trigger that yet.
All right, so that needs to be done in the use effects though, as well. So, and so that changes based on the states. Here's that, or animation complete. Where does that get called?
It doesn't get called anywhere yet. That's what we're working on.
In this use effects, we're going to start subscribing to animation complete, and to when it is complete, call on complete, but also to be, we want to dispose, just do the proper disposal here. So that's going to be our template. And so anytime you're dealing with the subscription, just for those of you watching, that's how you figure it out in use effect. And so that's going to be based on state. So whenever the state changes, we start a new subscription to the to the elements.
Yeah. And so doing just straight up transition and animation end listeners, are you good with that, or do you have a better recommendation?
I have no better idea. I will, basically this is one of those choose your poison moments.
Yeah.
Either deal with it being weird and finicky, and you'll see we might run into some edge cases with it, or you set timeout.
Yeah.
I don't know. There's no good way of communicating like, hey, the animation's done, or at least no reliable way.
Yeah,
I think.
Especially if you are like animating child elements and like all this kind of stuff, like it gets really, really tricky. Vue does a good job. I tried to look at the internals for this before the show to see how they were smoothing over some of that, but I can't. I couldn't locate it. I've looked at that before, but they are using those transition and animation end events in some capacity. They're just not necessarily ready for being reliable. So let's see. So data state. All right. So we need a ref, right? Now, is there any reason we couldn't just subscribe directly to transition end and
I don't see why not.
Because we could just do on transition end equals animation complete. On animation end equals animation complete.
No way.
Yeah.
Console.log. Hey, I am Dunzo.
Yeah. So we'll say let's go on our to-do. So we'll say to-do data state, we'll say transition opacity 0.5 seconds linear, and we'll say to-do data state deleted opacity 0, and let me open up the console here.
Hey, I am Dunzo. That's awesome.
Yeah, it should trigger correctly. Let's see here. Click that. Boop. And beautiful. I mean, that's
nice.
Extremely simple. We don't have to rely on the use effect here. We could do like a separate state for like this has been triggered. Because, like if you just have a hover transition or something like that, you don't necessarily want this being triggered. So we could do, let's see, either a separate state of like the animation has started, or do something smarter with animating, set animating
playing around with your API over here.
And then set PreState, state, set animating true, set animating false. And we can do this as if animating.
So I added something that maybe you didn't notice, but it's working beautifully. I have an on deleted. Don't get confused with on delete, but there's on deleted, which means it's deleted. And you could even imagine this useful if we're doing some sort of async deletion. But on deleted, just that is going to follow the on complete thing. And so if you open up your console, or did you delete the console logs?
I just have them. Yeah, I just have them cleared out at start. It should be working though.
Okay, but yeah, for example, if you
okay,
if you delete the middle one, it'll say player 1 eliminated. If you watch the Squid Games, then you'll know where that comes from. All the rage right now, but yeah, so it's going to just notify that it was deleted.
Oh, okay. What I need to do here is do a use callback, I guess. Let's see. Because if animating, that should. Let's see. We can do this as set animating.
What's set animation?
The set animating is what that should be. Set animating, and then we'll return false. This should do it. Yeah, there we go. This way, it's only going to trigger that on complete if the transition or animation end came from a state transition. That way, a hover animation or some separate animation would not trigger it. In theory, let's format real quick.
Try deleting it now. I'm having a bit too much fun with this.
And now it actually is removed from there. You're doing that in the to-do reducer.
I am, yeah, and it makes it a lot nicer here because now all the logic is centralized. You don't have the logic floating around here, and all the components are ever going to do is really dispatch events. That's, that's their only role. So, yeah, it's just going to filter through the list and sweep up the eliminated players. Sorry, don't mean to get morbid, but yeah. Now it's not working.
Yeah, I changed the smallest thing. I'm not sure if I did it. The on delete button isn't working right now. I don't know.
Was it me? I don't know.
There we go.
Wait, so
now it's working. I don't know what.
Oh, so it's because I had index instead of I, and it should be index I. So there we go. Cool. And then now we can do a little bit of cleanup here. It looks super clean. We have our to-dos, a dispatch, and yeah. So now comes the fun part. Let's get this closer to the actual animation.
Yeah. I'm digging this. This is very, very simple overall, and I'm liking it. This feels much cleaner than a lot of our normal setups. So let's see. You got like that. So there's really kind of three states, like just displaying it and then displaying it with the deleted button, and then displaying and then deleted. I don't want to get into the undo thing necessarily.
Yeah,
but we can at least do the actual like to do animation, or the delete animation in a little better way. So right now we're just transitioning that. We can say duration 2.5 seconds. Set this as var duration. And now when we're going to the deleted state, we can say, you know, like to do delete. I
added a safety net in case, just in case like we accidentally delete all of our to-dos.
Oh, nice. That's helpful. We'll do transition transform var duration is in out. And for this, we can say transform scale 0. And now our button, our delete button, should, you know, oh, getting an error.
That's me.
Okay.
Here we go.
There we go.
Yeah. So there's also a little stagger where the delete button goes away, but the actual to do goes away as well.
Right.
And it's sort of it goes to the right too, and it does sort of a rebound thing. So yeah.
Yeah. Translate 50%. We can say to do main, to do delete. Get both of those in there. Yeah.
I just realized in the dribble it's an actual GIF. It's not a or GIF. Sorry, if you pronounce it GIF or GIF. It's a HIF, and yeah, I could scrub through it. That's fun.
Duration. Let's do 6 seconds. Make that a little bit longer. Yeah, let's see. I'm gonna open that in GIF Scrubber. A lot of older dribbles are still GIFs, but the newer ones are MP4s. Okay, so we've got how they come in, and then when they go out, just fades out, and then yeah, that's kind of a animation. So we could say we could do an actual animation for the to do main out for duration out keyframes out. We'll do 20%. 5%. Transform, translate, x, give 20%. 5. Let's see how that looks. Yeah, with better easing, that could be done nicer. Mission timing function. These out. This came together surprisingly quickly for
yeah, it did.
The seeming complexity of it.
Mm-hmm. So
why am I not getting anything rendering?
I have it rendering.
Oh, there we go.
The duration I'm going to make a little bit quicker because it feels to be sort of, or you know.
Yeah, nice.
Cool. And then translate X. I'm just going to straight up do, well, not 10%, but 100%. Just because, oh, well, that's a little bit much.
Yeah, a little bit. 750. Oh, good Lord.
Oh, that's even more. That's, can't have that. Okay. And then so we probably want the, I mean, the garbage can goes away pretty quickly. Scale 0.1. We want that to go just bye-bye.
Yeah.
That might feel a bit quick. I don't know. This is the fun part, like just actually playing around with the values.
Yeah. Yeah, the easing is kind of crucial here. Let's see, where did you add the data state before? Let's hide that so we can see a little bit better. All right. That's pretty nice. Now, we could introduce kind of that secondary state of like selected, where we just do like on click equals set state selected. And let's see. Okay, adjusting that. That's fine. Let's do delete. Translate x 100% and do data state equals selected 0. Do delete.
Oh no, no more delete button.
Transform, yeah. Just a minute. Opacity 0. Oh, just clicking. Let's see. That's not right. Why is that happening? Oh, because we're on complete, we're doing on deleted. Okay, so we need to do that as if to do dot deleted on deleted. That real quick.
Well, yes. Okay.
Because
that makes sense.
Yeah, if we're adding like a third state in there, we don't want that to happen. But I don't know why that isn't working. Oh, was I just missing something?
Yeah, the bracket.
It says
I'm not getting the delete button.
Yeah, to do state data state equals selected. Let me see.
There is something that's giving you an opacity of 0.
Yeah. Oh, this should be opacity 1, opacity 0. All right, so now. Right, so now only if it's selected will it show up. Do main. Let's translate x. Yeah.
How will we know if it's selected?
You click it and it brings up that.
Where in the JavaScript did you add that?
That's just in the to do itself. It's not it's not managed by the parent or anything.
Aha, set state selected. Okay, gotcha. And then yeah, makes sense. So data state selected. Cool. Be a little snappier.
Yeah. This is where you can adjust the duration based on the state. For data state deleted, we can update the duration there. For this, the default duration, we can have it much lower.
Yeah, but then the trash can sort of just disappears.
Yeah,
it's weird.
That is interesting. To-do state selected. We would say opacity 1 here. Let's see, transition. Oh, okay. That's also part of it. Opacity. There we go.
Nice. There we go.
Yeah.
It does a weird like back and forth thing. We might have to do a transition CSS variable, or sorry, transform CSS variable for that, since otherwise it's going back to the start, then it's going to the left, then it's going to the right, which
right. Yeah. So data state. Funky. Let's see. Unselected.
So let's see, to do main.
Hold on. To do data state equals unselected. Just wrap all that there, and that way it won't. That way it should all be self-contained. Yeah.
To do main.
You try that now, it should work.
Ah, okay. There we go.
But you removed that. Oh, where did you set var t?
In to do main, one of the several places that we have it.
Okay. Yeah, I don't think we need it there anymore. It can just be directly in the unselected state.
That was translate x 1.5 rem.
Yeah.
And there we go.
Nice. That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool.
Now, I do want to mention a race condition that will never happen because we're doing the animations fast enough. But if we were to do the selected animation slower and we were to delete while the selected animation was still going, what's going to happen is that onComplete is going to prematurely fire because the previous animation finished before the subsequent one. So, but that's nothing to worry about now. Just pretend that.
Well, that's something like the animating state. We could in the state animation component, the animating state can be like can store what state is currently animating, and then that can be checked to so that the onComplete isn't fired unless that matches. You know.
Yeah. So yeah, just exploring different alternatives of doing this. We talked about the one where we we could potentially just use the timeouts for that, and then there's this one where we're actually listening to listening to the animation events. And a third one that if you want to, as an exercise to the reader, go consider, is using the Web Animations API, because then you have in JavaScript, you could define your animations, apply them to the elements, and then when those animations are done, just like a promise, you could, or at least I think it's just like a promise, you could say, okay, now call onCompleted.
Yeah.
And so what's great about that is right now we're blindly listening to animations, which it works in this case. We could do something when the animation in general is stopped for the elements. But if we want to listen for specific animations, that's where you would probably want to use the Web Animations API.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. This is definitely intended for kind of a simple transition setup. And there's so many ways to improve this and adding animation APIs. So far, I haven't found any React transition kind of libraries that I've actually liked or have felt functional. But a simple like utility component like this feels like a lot more accessible to me, at least. You know, being able to understand all the little bits that are happening there. So yeah, I think this is a nice little setup and went surprisingly quick and painless. That makes me a little nervous.
We'll see if anyone out there can break it.
Oh, I'm sure there's plenty of ways to break it. You know, we don't have very robust logic overall in it, but the reducer you've set up is nice. And if we were actually managing like the to-do state in completely in the to-dos object, like that would help. But you know, we're on the verge of a full state machine here. That's the real solution.
Absolutely.
So that's pretty cool. I think we can call it there and do a little summary, I guess.
Sounds good. Yeah.
All right. Let's see. I think you should definitely walk us through your reducer.
Sure.
Reducer, and then state animation component, and we'll walk through this whole setup here. So if you're watching this full thing, you know, stick with us. We're gonna kind of do a summary and break down kind of the pieces of this animation. So stay tuned. We'll be right back. Hola, animigos, and welcome to Keyframers. I'm Stephen Shaw.
And I'm David Khourshid.
Let's take a quick look at this to-do list app we made to kind of practice React state transitions, state animations. And let's look at the reducer that's kind of powering the majority of it here.
Sure. So we had to consider all the things that can happen in our very simple to-do app. Obviously, you can't add new to-dos, otherwise this would be a really long episode. But there's 3 things that can happen. And by can happen, I mean what the user can do, and also just other things that the actual application can do. The main thing is delete, and that's one of the things we want to highlight in this app. When you delete, what we're doing is we are just finding that to do and setting deleted to true. The reason we're not eliminating it entirely is because that is the responsibility of the deleted event. And this deleted event is going to come from the components that Shaw's going to talk about that says, by the way, this to do is successfully animated out and it's deleted. But the delete event is sent by the user when they click the delete button, which in our special to-do component is using this on delete prop. So whenever it's clicked inside, we're going to dispatch that delete with the index of the to-do over to the to-dos reducer inside of use reducer. And then when it's completely deleted, then we're going to send the deleted events to that reducer too, so that we can notify the reducer that it was deleted. And then we have a restart button, you know, just in case all of our to-dos are deleted and we want to see the animations one more time. This is a much better approach than trying to shove that application logic inside of your event handlers, because now all you have to do is send events. In fact, we don't even need a console log here. So yeah, and so your logic is nice and centralized inside that reducer.
Yeah, that's super helpful, and it makes it really reusable too. You know, it's not all kind of linked directly to the component. It's a lot more independent. Yeah, I don't use reducer and reducers nearly enough, but I do like the approach there. That's nice. All right, well, let's take a look at how we're actually triggering those animations. So whenever the to-dos reducer is dispatched with a delete action, so what's happening there is we actually set that deleted flag on that exact to-do, so that when we're rendering it, we now have that information. Each to-do is kind of tracking its own state, and this is for a few reasons, but mainly so we can do this little like selected state. So when you click it, it brings up the trash can, so that you can delete it. So we can also trigger these animations. So whenever it's deleted, we're setting our state to deleted, and that state is being passed through to this state animation component. And this is kind of where a lot of the magic is happening. So if we look up here at it, state animation, we're taking in the state and reading that as the prop. And we've got an on complete kind of callback as well. So we've got our state here that's matching the state prop initially. And whenever that state prop changes and is not equal to the current state, then we're going to set animating to true. We're going to update the prev state so that we just have that information we can use for more relevant informations. And we're going to set the state to this new kind of property. And when we're rendering out that component, by default, this is just a div, but it could be overridden in a lot of ways. We're rendering the data state attribute on there, so that if we're looking at it in the DOM, here, let's just inspect really quick. We've got our to-do with the data state of selected, so it's showing the trash can icon, and the data prev state of unselected. Now, if we click that, it's going to, well, it goes really quickly, but it shows that data state of deleted for just a moment. And then we have two event listeners attached directly to this, the on transition end and on animation end. These are just native JavaScript event listeners that aren't perfect, but they do work for some simple cases like this, where we're just triggering kind of a fade out animation and some animation on the children. And then those, when they're triggered, call our animation complete function. And with that, we're just looking at if this was an animation because of a state transition, that's why we have that animating prop, then we're going to trigger on complete. And that's basically it. Now, the actual animations in the CSS, we're just using those data state values, and we've got some kind of default transitions on everything. So the to-do, we've got that there. The to-do main and to-do delete both have transition on there. And so whenever we trigger the selected state, that's how that little trash can kind of comes in from the unselected state. And then in the deleted state, we're fading out the whole to-do over opacity 0. We've updated the duration to be a little bit longer so that we have, you know, a little more playroom for the actual animation. And then whenever that duration is up, it's going to trigger that transition end event and call that on completed or animation complete function and kind of pass some information back to the parent there. So it's a relatively simple setup, and we're probably tracking more than we need to. It could be optimized in a lot of different ways, but this is a nice and simple approach to kind of tracking the current state of something and triggering some animations and callbacks based on that. So yeah, definitely worth a play. And you know, if you've got some better recommendations, you know, please feel free to fork this and let us know. But yeah, you want to hit the outro for us, David?
Sure thing. So you can watch the full process of creating this animation for a deeper dive into each technique on the full stream live, linked right below. Mixed up the words there, but yeah, leave us a comment if you have any questions.
Yes, our show is supported by our sponsors, CodePen at codepen.io, CSS Tricks at css-tricks.com, Stately at stately.ai, and viewers like you. You can pledge at patreon.com/keyframers and subscribe to our channel for plenty of great content. We've got all those links available below. But thank you so much for watching. Until next time, adios, amigos.
Adios.